Hey there, history buffs and gamers. Welcome back to Historically Gaming. I'm the Fit Historian, and I've got a question for you. Have you ever had the flu? My guess is you have, or at least some variety of the flu. Nowadays, there are several variants going around, and each year our doctors recommend that we get a flu shot to help protect us from getting the flu. But did you know that the flu can actually be deadly? Now, I'm not just talking about if a small child or an elderly person contracts it. I'm talking healthy, strong people can die from the flu. Well, today we're going to be diving into exactly that. An epidemic where strong, healthy people were unfortunately passing away after contracting the flu. We're going all the way back to 1918 to discuss the 1918 influenza pandemic, or what you might have known it as the Spanish flu pandemic. This devastating event reshaped society, medicine, and the whole world in profound ways. And understanding it is crucial for navigating future health crises. So go ahead, grab a coffee and a mask, and let's jump right in. Alright, I want you to imagine a world already reeling from the throes of World War I. Amidst this global conflict, enters a new and deadly enemy. The 1918 flu, caused by the H1N1 virus, spread rapidly across the globe. Its origins are still debated to this day, but it became clear very quickly that this was no ordinary flu. The pandemic unfolded in three distinct phases. The first occurred in the spring of 1918, and it was relatively mild. The second wave, which began in the fall, was absolutely brutal. This wave targeted young, healthy adults, which is a stark contrast to typical flu strains that usually only affect the elderly or the super young. Symptoms that were reported were severe, and they included high fevers, chills, fatigue, and a terrifyingly distinctive bluish tint to the skin, which is a sign of severe respiratory distress. Many victims actually succumbed to pneumonia after just a few days, sometimes even hours after showing symptoms. The sheer scale of this pandemic was staggering. It's estimated that it infected over 500 million people. That's roughly a third of the world's population at the time. And not only that, this pandemic claimed 50 million lives. Think about that for a second. More people died of the flu than died during World War I. Speaking of the war, it actually had a significant hand in the spread of the disease. Troop movements, both within and between countries, became vectors for the virus, carrying it to the far corners of the world. The overcrowded conditions in the military camps and on transport ships further fueled its transmission. The medical science at this time was very ill-equipped to handle such a virulent disease. There were no effective antiviral treatments, and antibiotics had not yet been discovered to combat secondary bacterial infections like pneumonia. Doctors and nurses were very overwhelmed, often working in makeshift hospitals with limited resources. The sheer number of sick people, coupled with the loss of healthcare workers to the illness itself, just created a perfect storm. The pandemic's effect on society itself was immense. Businesses and schools were forced to close. Public gatherings were also banned. and fear and uncertainty gripped communities. Funerals became a constant occurrence, and the loss of so many young lives had a devastating effect on not only families, but their communities. The pandemic also exposed deep societal inequalities, with poorer communities and marginalized groups often bearing the brunt of the illness and its economic consequences. Now, one industry that was affected by the pandemic was the movie industry. Like most businesses, movie theaters were forced to close, and the production schedules of films were halted. This obviously led to a decline in box office revenue and a loss of jobs for not only actors, but directors and other film workers. But it wasn't all bad. The pandemic also spurred some innovations in the film industry. Studios began to experiment with new technologies, such as color and sound, to attract new audiences. They also began to produce more films with darker themes like illness, death, and loss, really reflecting the anxieties and fears of the time. One notable example of this is the film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This film is a German expressionist horror film that was released in 1920. The film's dark and disturbing atmosphere resonated with audiences who were grappling with the traumatic experience of the pandemic. The pandemic also led to a structure change in the industry. Hollywood studios gained more power as independent filmmakers began to struggle. This consolidation of power would have a lasting impact on the film industry for decades to come. Overall, the 1918 flu pandemic did have a huge effect on the movie industry. While it was a hard time filled with loss, it also led to some innovations and changes that would end up shaping the future of film. Like we mentioned, the pandemic was filled with hardships and overall was a tragedy. But I'd be remiss not to note that it also spurred some important changes. It highlighted the need for better public health infrastructure and disease surveillance. It also led to increased research into virology and immunology, paving the way for future advancements in the fight against infectious diseases. Now, I want to draw some parallels between our own recent pandemic of COVID-19 back in 2020. I'm sure as this video has gone on, you've already started to note some things that might sound similar. Both pandemics included a novel respiratory illness that's just spread rapidly across the globe. Both caused widespread illness and death, disrupted daily life, and exposed vulnerabilities in our healthcare systems. We also saw similar measures implemented for safety, such as social distancing, mask wearing, and lockdowns, all to attempt to slow the spread of the disease. However, there were also some key differences between the two. Nowadays, we have a much better understanding of viruses and how they spread. We also have advanced diagnostic tools, antiviral treatments, and most crucially, vaccines. The rapid development of the COVID-19 vaccine is a true testament to the progress made in medical science since 1918. While yes, the COVID-19 pandemic was a significant global health crisis, the advancements made over the last century were able to significantly reduce the mortality rate compared to the 1918 pandemic. The 1918 flu pandemic serves as a stark reminder of the power of infectious diseases and the importance of preparedness. It also teaches us the importance of public health measures, scientific research, and global cooperation. By studying the past, we can better equip ourselves to face future challenges and protect the health of our communities. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next episode. Let me know down in the comments what event you want me to cover next. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!